There is an exercise in the book Zen, the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. I'm reading it right now. And I'm really enjoying it. I really like this book. It's really not about Zen or motorcycle maintenance. It's really like, it's quite profound, honestly. I don't really know entirely what I would say it is. But that's not really the point of the video. You can read Zen, the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance if you want. By reading it, you'll figure out what it is and maybe be able to share your opinion on that. But this is about a specific technique that was shared with me through Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. This technique is a technique of describing something that is right in front of you in tremendous detail in such a way that it forces you to actually look at it directly and just describe what it is that is in front of you without falling into preconceived habits or remembering what someone told you something is, without trying to come up with the right answer, but simply describing something, describing how something appears to you now. This reminds me of what Nietzsche said about consistency being the hobgoblin of weak minds. He said, simply wake up, look at the world, say what is true, and then do the same again tomorrow. Do not worry about being consistent. Simply look at the world and just say what you think. So I want to do that for this video because I think that that's a very useful idea. I think it's very, very, very useful because I found a lot of my own thoughts are confused. Like Peterson talks about this. He says that you don't own an idea unless you can fully understand the idea and act the idea out and embody the idea, and you really thought it through for yourself. If you just adopt an idea because it sounds cool, then the idea owns you in some sense. And this is because you don't understand the idea. You don't know what you're adopting. So you're not adopting it, it's adopting you. You could see this with the woke mind virus, communism, Jesuitry, all of these things. It's all adoptions of an idea that you do not understand. And I don't think that that is necessarily helpful for people. I mean, I think that people can adopt ideas they don't understand through the wisdom of their family network, if their family network is very well set up. But you need elders, you need wise elders who are vetted and trusted in order to, by other wise elders, like you need a tradition, you need a true oral tradition of a family in order to, I think, have that play out. Because I think that it's kind of ironic, but the only people who I can say that I honestly could just listen, I just could have listened to their advice and just taken it without understanding it yet, would have worked out for me are my parents. It's the only people. Like everyone, and not even, I mean, like even they didn't give perfect advice, but I could have pretty much just taken all of it at face value, ran with it until it stopped working, and then seen. And it's like, you know, I did do that to a very large degree. I'm not saying this is some sort of like rebellious son. I'm just saying that I think that there's something to bloodline, and obviously, and I think that it's not even just bloodline. It's just that you pick up where your parents left off psychologically. Like, I'm very much bending over backwards to take care of my children and my family at the moment. And because I'm bending over backwards to take care of my children and my family at the moment, I am I'm very much like I'm sacrificing quite a lot, and it's making me wiser. It's a sacrifice of myself to myself. I'm very fond of those for mythological reasons. So I'm sacrificing myself to myself, sacrificing Devon now for children of Devon. And that's really real. Like, I so much want them to be better versions of me, because if they're not, then me doing this is pointless. Now, I think they will be, because I think I picked a very amazing woman as a wife who's very compatible with myself, and I think that all this will work together to be what it needs to be, and that will be good. And it'll be better. I mean, I think that like the genetic combination of me and my wife is like better than each of us on our own. I think that the combination of our minds together is better than each of us on our own. So, but it's also in raising them. Like, they're just observing me in my unfiltered state, and they're like, because I just live with them, they're just kind of observing everything. And same with my wife. So they're really just picking up all of my micro routines, micro thoughts, like my emotional state, like everything. They're just sucking in every single facet of everything they can observe that is me, their father. Just absorbing it like sponge faces. And I'm absorbing them too. I mean, I'm absorbing what I see of them in my relentless observation of them, because they're my children I'm sacrificing everything for. And it's like, I think that in some sense, if your parents are properly oriented, then, or as properly oriented as people can be, then, or just properly oriented. I mean, I think it's really what it is, properly oriented. If your parents are properly oriented, then you should listen to their advice. Because at least, the only thing I really like didn't listen to their advice on was like waiting till marriage to have sex, I guess. That was like the only piece of advice. But even then I'd argue on my own behalf that that wasn't well communicated. But I think that like they just did like a really good job. But even then, like, I have such a nuanced understanding of everything my parents have told me, because my brain's like pre-programmed, like to notice all the details of everything they say. It's very interesting. So I think starting with the advice of your parents, if they're the sort of parents who you should follow advice from, is a good place to start. But in general, I don't think it's good to act out things you don't understand. I think that that is bad, because and so then it makes it incumbent on your parents to understand as much as humanly possible, because if they're going to insist that you follow the dictums of society, they better understand all those dictums, because at some point you'll have to understand them, discard them, or discard yourself. And I think that that's just, it's really imperative that you understand everything it is that you're doing and try to. That's just like, really just go for it. Like, you have to. Your soul depends on it. So I'm going to make videos on ideas. I'm going to make videos on ideas and just talk about them. This video specifically is going to be on idea. It's going to be on the American road systems. I'm driving on the roads right now, so I can just observe them and I can talk about them. But I wanted to explain what it is I'm doing and the value of the technique before I started doing it. Because simply reiterating information, I run into this problem on my channel, because a lot of what I know is stuff that I've studied in studies, and a lot of what I know is stuff that I've observed in my own body and the bodies of others. So I'm trying to bridge these constantly, but I worry that it leads to a whole lot of me talking out of my ass. Like, not really. Like, I really make sure I understand the things I say. But it's sort of like, it's like I'm doing two kinds of speaking. one sort of speaking is reporting. I'm just reporting what it is I've experienced. The other sort of speaking is I'm reporting what it is I've researched. But the problem is I'm researching what I experienced without literally reading clinical case studies on myself. Part of the reason for this is resources. I just don't have the resources to necessarily study myself, but I also can't derive conclusions. So I guess this is sort of what the problem is, potentially, and this is sort of like where they're getting at, what he's getting at in Zen, the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, is we try to derive conclusions from our, I guess what I'm doing is I'm just describing my experience of the world when I'm doing things well, which hopefully is most or all the time. I'm describing my experience of the world, and then I am describing my experience of researching the body of scientific literature that has led me to various hypotheses about the nature of my experience and the nature of the transformation of my experience. So, right now, I don't know whether to make this video about the American roads or make it about the nature of rhetoric itself. But I guess I'll just make it about my experience of the technique. But I think I have to do it about the roads to make it that way, because in talking about the roads, I got here. So I'm going to talk about the roads. This is an interesting fact, though. This is an interesting perspective. It's an interesting way of looking at it that I'm adopting right now, because not only am I telling you what I know, but I have managed to put my consciousness on the knife's edge of my own understanding. And I am now sharing that with you, and that is what this technique is designed to produce. It's designed to help you find the knife's edge of your own understanding so that you may use that knife's edge to cut the world into pieces that you understand. The point being, pieces that you understand. For you. Because I've realized there is not one way, universal for everyone. There's not one way up the mountain of truth. There are as many ways as there are people. Every man walks his own way, slightly differently. Even if two men use the same path, it is not the same way, but one must believe in the way. I wanted to make a video today, and I don't know why I didn't do this, but a short, just saying that in order to have the world that we want, you must believe the way exists, or you will not find it. On my channel, I describe the world that I want, and I think it's a universally appealing world. But this is a perfect segue into the American roads. So I'm driving on the highway right now, and I look. On either side of me, there's concrete barriers. One of the concrete barriers has ended. There are lines in the middle of the road dividing lanes, and I'm driving in the middle of one of the lanes in the middle of the road. It's smooth. The road has just changed, but it is still smooth. Whoever pays these roads, obviously, takes care of them. This is unique in the history of the world. Most of the world does not have such beautiful, well-maintained roads. I've been there, and not nearly so nice. It's quite remarkable. Rome is known for its roads. But there again, I'm engaging in rhetoric. There's overpasses ahead of me. I remember a law that Eisenhower passed that every, I believe, 2 miles, there has to be a stretch of a quarter mile so that you can land and take off planes from the highway during wartime. So the highway will double as runway for planes. Speeding a little bit, and I'm passing a truck on my right. There's a liquor and wine store on either side of the highway. Shows me how much people love to numb their own minds and consciousness. You probably don't if you're watching this video, because I make my videos for people with long attention spans on purpose. I believe that people with long attention spans change the world. And I want to interact with people who are going to change the world, because by golly, I want the world to be the way I want it to be. Because I'm a great person. Like, I just love myself, and I think I'm a great person. And I love the things I make. And I'm just like, if I had more power and resources, I would just make so many more great things that I and others would love. And I'd probably like the people who like the things I make. And that's even cooler. And when I didn't like them, I could just go off to my own little space and be me. And they could be them, and it'd be a great world for that to all take part, all happening. And driving past cars, there's tons of cars on the road. These cars were largely popularized, in my opinion, by Henry Ford, which really changed the landscape of the country to the point where I'm now driving on this here road. These highways did not exist before the car, and they're the result of the car, I think, in a large way. Nice bright green signs over the highway. They're well maintained, showing that the people in this part of the country really care about their roads. I like that about northern Massachusetts, southern New Hampshire. It's a very classy area. Very, very classy. I like it. I enjoy it. It's just nice. It's like my kind of vibe. In many ways. Drive past another sign that says, "Are you preparing to meet Jesus?" Well, I certainly am. Not engaging in rhetoric, but I'm not describing the same road either. I'm really describing my experience of the road. Maybe I'll focus on my experience of the road. I'm going to do that. I'm going to move my attention to my experience of the road, my experience of being in the car, because the road is changing too much for me to get into a definition that forms an essay on the road. My experience of the road changes as well. I think it is easier to describe things that are static. Otherwise, we must describe the ways in which they change. The road changes according to the landscape. It serves as a simplification of the landscape to allow for simplified travel. Without a simplified landscape, travel cannot be simple either. A road provides an area of reduced variability. This area of reduced variability takes energy to maintain. Things must be removed from the road: leaves, twigs, debris, junk from other cars. If these things aren't removed from the road, then the area of reduced variability will become an area of normal variability, and standardized means of travel will be less effective. A horse is a more general means of travel, which is why it is less effective on a standardized road, which is an area of reduced variability than a car, but more effective in a forest or across changing terrain. Simplifying our methods of travel have likely simplified our ways of thinking about the world. If I had to travel the world on horseback, doubtless I would travel less, but I would also think more about my traveling, because the traveling would be more complicated, and I would feel the land more because I would not be traveling over such an area of reduced variability. I'd feel the variability as the changing character of the land, and that would inform my opinions in a way that this road does not. By describing my experience of the transformation of the road in this instant, I'm gaining access to my own thoughts in a way that I can't normally. I have associative thoughts while reading literature and while consuming media and art and living life, but they're fragmented and not tied down to a result in a way that a video can be. This makes a video different from abstract thought in a pure sense, but in a way a form of it and a concretization of it. Though a video is in fact something that erodes. ones and zeros stored in electrical impulses on chips, disks, and other places will, through quantum tunneling over time, degrade. And because of this, do not constitute a real physical means of storage. At least not within the span of a human lifetime, which is remarkable. This makes me think about my theories about how we interact on a quantum level with all manifestations of our composition throughout the infinite multiverse of the eternal recurrence across the infinite existence of the plane of being. This makes me think that I should make a video on the eternal recurrence, but that's not the point of this video. Though mathematically Nietzsche, over 100 years ago, demonstrates not only the reincarnation, but all reincarnation, and a grounding for imagination, before quantum physics gave us a way that we can communicate with this, and a unified theory of God made it real. I think Chris Langan's ideas on God are quite interesting for this reason. Though I have started reading the CCMU and I find it obnoxious, though that could be my own fault and I may have to devote more time to reading it. I had a dream of the roads all being made of water. Water in dreams represents consciousness, and the underneath of water represents the unconscious. We traveled on these roads in boats. Ideas travel over streams of consciousness as much as they travel over roads. The printing press and the highway has allowed information to travel at a rapid rate, so much so that technologies such as the internet have been created through the escape velocity of information exchange and creativity and innovation. This allows for humans to engage in self-organization via the organizational network of roads, maps, towns, the internet, and familial relationships over time, such that people move across the United States in ways where personality types and even ideas will actually self-organize as in a neural network through people. This is the case in Europe, and this is what allowed for the ideas that became the United States to have their genesis. The communication between the ever-changing nodes of the neural network allowed for the diversity amongst multiplicity within a unity that itself became a mind, calling itself Christendom. I wish to reawaken this mind in a very real sense and participate in that reawakening through making YouTube videos that tap into my own consciousness and unconsciousness while I interact with the world in this very real way and make it real through the narrative of my own life and the creation of videos on a daily basis, such that the ideas that I toy with and play with, coming from the books that I read that formed the culture through their own interaction with the people who read them and wrote them, and then wrote them into reality itself, and through my daily mapping of my own interaction with these ideas through these videos and through my association of these ideas with my own life and the own creation of my own products and companies and decisions and competitions and victories and losses and ideas and stories reported in these videos, and the interaction with these ideas by people who self-organize the pattern of these ideas by organizing the order in which they themselves consume them via the order of my videos. Because you can watch these videos in any order, and you choose that. You can rewatch them in any order, and YouTube chooses that as well based on all these algorithms. And this itself, in interaction with everything else going on, creates this mind. And I like to draw attention to that because you can participate in it, are participating in it, and the more aware you are of how you participate in this mind, the better. The ideas of 100 years ago have yet to be implemented at the household level. These ideas exist only in abstraction to the average man. The only thing we've improved since Rome is electricity. They already have plumbing. Rome's innovation was plumbing. Egypt had everything else. These patterns interest me, and these patterns are mapped out in the books that people write down, that they're compelled to write down, that they must write down, because they feel that the ideas within these books are so important that if they did not write them down, then something important would be lost that could never be recovered, and the earth of which would mar civilization, would mar this colony of mind, this hive that us bees build. We go out, we fly away, we come back bringing bits of knowledge, nectar that we curate into the sweet honey that gives us the life we need to build the hive larger. I wish to help this hive become aware of itself, because I feel that I am, as of yet, just beginning to become aware of myself. And I think that by participating in this process, I will gain in my own self-awareness. And only by participating in this process will I gain in my own self-awareness, because the Buddha himself turned down enlightenment, because the whole world could not obtain it at once. And at the 26-minute mark, I feel uncomfortable but comfortable saying that I understood that on LSD when I myself was 19 years old. I understood why he did that, because we are all one. He was but a flower emerging from the root network of the human race. And for the flower to say, I am the flower, you are the root, I am better than you, is a joke. He wanted the root to realize it was the flower as well. But we're more beautiful than roots and flowers. We are human beings made in the image of God. Made in the image of God. I wouldn't have realized that if I'd never done psychedelics. I read all the literature. I recommend, if you do psychedelics, read all the literature. Read the literature for 5 years before ever doing a single psychedelic or drug like I did. Test everything. Read all the literature. Become an expert in psychedelics. If you still want to take them, do it in the most controlled and safest way possible, with clear communication with loved ones who you trust. If I hadn't done that, though, I might never have found God, and I feel like I need to say that, because if there's anyone out there who's really looking, I don't want to hide the way, because I wouldn't have found the way if others hadn't said something as well. And if I don't say something, then the way will be lost. I read The Immortality Key by Brian Murakatsu, and it really, that same LSD trip, Jesus talked to me, not Buddha. I had that revelation about Buddhism, but I felt like Jesus spoke to me. And I think he'll speak to you too, drugs or no drugs, if you really want. Really, really want, I think he will. But you gotta want hard. Because pretty much every other time I do psychedelics, God does not speak to me. And I'm like, I want God to speak to me, and I'm on a bunch of psychedelics, and he doesn't speak to me. It's the way it is. I would be lying if I said anything else. So that's why I bring it up, because it was remarkable to me at the time, because I do not typically associate being on high doses of lysergic acid diethylamide with Jesus Christ speaking to me. But I found God. And I found the book Zen, the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. And I think that that book is, it's really important. He's onto something. That guy is onto something that I think we've been dealing with since the incarnation of God. The rhetoricians. Those skilled in rhetoric. How do you defeat them? How do you prevent them from crucifying you? As they crucified Christ, the Pharisees and scribes. I think it's interesting that the scribes and Pharisees told the governor, the Roman governor, what to do. I feel like the scribes and Pharisees had the real power and still do, but they may have become Jesuits. They've evolved beyond that. I have other videos on this. I like to talk about these things, but these ideas are far beyond my ability to comprehend on my own. at least at the actionable level. I simply use the words that I know to describe my own experiences so that I can give them form and interact with them. Get to know them better, see what I can even make of what I can't make anything of. One thing I know is that going forward courageously with your eyes open and describing the world as precisely as possible is a very powerful position. It's one I'm thrilled to take it. I'm thrilled, and I'm just like, wow, like I can just do this. And this will stay on YouTube forever, forming part of this neural network that is the human consciousness that has come, that, like right now what's happening through YouTube is every book that we have record of, I weep for the Library of Alexandria, but in the Arab library that was destroyed as well, but Library of Alexandria, every book that we have record of, every linear B tablet we're learning to translate is now becoming read by human beings who I can talk to, or I can read these things, and then I can watch videos by other people who have read these, and I can write books on this, and YouTube will accelerate the speed at which these ideas can be brought into proper orientation within the grand arc of culture, the Western canon, let's say. I find it the funniest name, but the Western canon, I think the Western canon is the Western canon, the narrative of history. And that's what's happening through YouTube, and I'm a part of it, and I feel great for being a part of it. You're a part of it too, because I mean, how can I be a part of it if you're not a part of it and you're listening to me? We're all connected through this grand thing. And go out and do something bold. Go do something courageous. Go engage with the world in a way. Go learn. Go look at an object and try to just describe what you see.